one of the things that everyone comes up with at some point is, okay, so this sounds really great. So what could possibly go wrong? So and over the next few slides, that's what I want to talk about, like really explore this world of, okay, what could go wrong with this program? And I'm going to focus really on tree survival and the many factors that can impact tree survival. I invite you to read our offering circular, which you can find on our ecotreeprogram.com page, which has all of the risk factors associated with this investment. All right, so let's talk about tree survival. So World Tree, we've been running the Eco Tree program. We actually did our very, very first raise was 2015, which was a small raise, and we started to grow it a little bit every year. So we've now been done, I lost count of the number of offerings. Every year, our performance, our tree survival has improved. Across all of those years, we have currently a 71% tree survival. So not every tree that we plant makes it through to maturity. We know that, we expect that when we begin planting. But there's many, many different factors that can impact tree survival. And these include the location, like where we plant, the soil pH, the climate, the environment that we're planting in, the risk of extreme weather events like storms and hurricanes, pests, disease, drought. You've got factors like, how well is the tree suited to the location it's planted in? There's many different types of Empress trees. Have we got the right variety for the right area? The quality of trees leaving the nursery, how accurately the trees are planted. Then we have site care and maintenance. You have to take care of these trees. You can't just pop an Empress tree in the ground, leave it for 10 years and expect to have beautiful lumber. You have to take care of them, which means another factor that we deal with that impacts tree survival is farmer engagement. How enrolled and connected are they to taking care of those trees? Now, of course, these are many different types of factors. Some of them we can control, some of them we can't control. The ones we can't control, we can maybe manage or at least have some inbuilt resilience in our program to deal with these many different things that can happen. So let's start with things that are in our control. So first of all, World Tree has long had a policy inside of our site selection to try and be clever about where we're planting. So for a start, we never plant near the coast. We tend to avoid those areas that have got a big track record for storms. Of course, when you get one of these mega storms in, it could strike anywhere, but we try to avoid those areas. We also avoid areas that we think are going to be extremely affected by low rainfall or drought condition. And then, so when we hear from farmers who would like to grow with us, we take them through a long and rigorous process. We have a 39-point scoring system, which includes soil testing, site visits, so we can be relatively sure, as sure as we can be, that we've selected a good location for the trees. The second thing that's in our control is genotype selection. Now, we've been growing these trees now for 8 or 9 years, and we've collected data on all of the 300 different locations we've planted the trees. We're the largest grower of Empress trees in North and Latin America. We've got more data than anyone else. So we've really learned, and we continue to learn about the best genotypes for where we're planting the trees. And that's really critical. It's very interesting to me that the best tree for Mexico is different to the best tree for Guatemala. And then the third factor that's in our control is our nursery partnerships. We've developed over the years some amazing relationships with nurseries. There was some trial and error at the start, finding the best protocols, the best nursery sites. And we really, at this point, have got some wonderful nurseries that we work with. The next factor is tree management. So we might not be able to control everything, but there's many things that we can manage. So one of those is our farmer education. The eco-tree program, to a great extent, is in the hands of our farmers. So World Tree, one of the things we do is we do training, we do on-site training, we do webinars, we visit our farmers, we're calling, we're texting them, we're making sure they have the support they need to grow these trees. Now then we go in, we audit the farms, we're monitoring, we're looking on the ground, what's happening. We send out annually, at the end of every year, reports on those trees to our investors. And then the third component is pest control. Many people are interested about the kinds of pests we see in the field. In some ways, we see very much less than you would see in other trees. The two main ones we see in Costa Rica is ants. And we've developed a number of different, as much as possible, organic techniques for dealing with ants. And then in the United States, the main contender is deer. And not on every farm, but on some farms, the deer, if they can't eat anything else, they go for our trees. And so the growers have been devising many different methods, including this tube method here, for protecting the trees from deer. Now, no matter what we do, we are going to lose some trees. We cannot run a perfect system here. We're dealing with Mother Nature. So one of the things that we do inside our offering is we have a contingency fund that allows us to replant up to 30% of the trees that are lost in the first 2 years when they're young and small and more vulnerable. And then the other part of our strategy that's always been key to our strategy is a dispersed geography. So every year when we bring in our eco-tree program capital, we then plant the trees in diverse locations. You can see here, and this is a map of our World Tree operations. Every little red dot is an Empress tree farm with World Tree. Costa Rica, Guatemala, Mexico, the United States. And as an investor, you own a pro rata share of all of the farms in your particular, you can think of it as a series or a vintage. So this way, you know, if we do have an impact in one of these red dots, it has a minimized effect across the whole investment offering. And so that's one of the important things we do to try and diversify our risks. Now, the final point that I want to touch on, and this is so important and I think perhaps overlooked, is that the way that we farm really matters. So I said at the beginning of the webinar, look, the whole forestry industry is worried about climate change. We know that there are species that are at risk of extinction. And how we do forestry really matters. And there hasn't been any major disruption in forestry, either in the species that's used or in the way that trees are planted for at least a century. This is a very conservative industry. And then along has come World Tree, and we have not only a new tree, but we have a completely different philosophy to how we plant and manage those trees. So I want to talk a little about this because it's so important. Regenerative agriculture and climate smart farming are really what is necessary and critical for us to have farm systems that can be more resilient to these storms and these droughts and these weather events that have arrived and will continue to come. We use various methodologies here at World Tree. 88% of our growers report they use some form of regenerative agriculture on their farms. Now, this includes what we call low-till agriculture. This means that instead of just like plowing out a whole farm, destroying the soil, we actually, more likely we will auger a hole and plant the tree into that hole, or auger a strip and plant into that strip so we can conserve the microorganisms in the soil for the rest of the field. The other thing that we do is we use cover crops. I'm going to show you in a moment how important cover crops are for creating resilient farm systems. They conserve moisture, they prevent runoff. And then finally, the third component is the integration of food and livestock. This is so important, and it's fascinating and logical. So this picture here, this is a sort of like how not to do it picture of what's the opposite of climate smart farming? Just the kind of the conventional till the field, get the trees in, plant only one thing on the field. And so you see here this baked earth here, brown hard field with the trees planted in the field. Now, you can just see with your eyes, you can just imagine the sun coming down onto this soil. The soil is like baked hard. If any water falls onto this soil, it cannot soak in. It's too hard. It just runs off. That's how we get soil erosion. So we're losing water, we're losing carbon. That soil is so important, not just the trees, but the soil is so important for restoring carbon, but it hasn't got a chance. There's no windbreaks, there's no protection from storms. So this whole system just doesn't have the kind of resiliency that you want to see for a beautiful climate smart farm. This here is the kind of farm that we like to see. So this here, these are 3-year-old Empress trees, and you can just see with your eyes. You do not need to be an expert to be able to see how different this system is. So first of all, you can see amongst the trees here, we've got ground cover. The ground cover, it doesn't have to be food. It can be a mix of just different ground covers, clovers, grasses, different cover crops that provide a really important buffer to both drought and storms. So in drought situations, those little green covers there, they'll hold the moisture in, they keep the ground cooler, wetter, they create a microclimate for the soil. And then if you do have like big storms, they're providing a way to bring that water into the soil rather than create soil erosion. The whole system ends up with this beautiful, healthy soil, good roots for the trees. Now just think for yourself in your own neighborhoods. If you've got baked hard ground, how is the tree getting leveraged into that soil? It needs healthy soil. The healthier the soil, the healthier the tree. This whole system is bringing in water, it's bringing in carbon. The micronutrients from the tree leaves are coming down to the ground and restoring the soil. Plus, those trees are providing windbreaks. You know, if you think about what I shared with you at the beginning of all of our farms in Alabama and Georgia and Florida, all of our farms, the worst hit of those farms suffered 10% tree loss. And part of that is because we're building in these kind of storm breaks. And by the way, if those trees do break in a storm, most of the ones that broke in that example, we think are going to recover because they're going to regrow from the roots of the tree, another beautiful feature of the Empress tree. That's one example. I just want to show you how, you know, this when it goes to the nth degree. These are 4 of our farms in Costa Rica. You can, again, see with your eyes how healthy and resilient these ecosystems are. This one, we see Empress trees planted with coffee. We've got Empress here with plantains. I mean, this tree here, the Empress trees love it. They're so big, they're coming off the top of the picture here. Empress planted with abaca, that's in the plantain family, but it actually produces a fiber that you can use to make ropes. And also our farmers are planting Empress trees and grazing their cattle, creating even more resilience, that kind of own ecosystem between the cattle who can use the trees for shade and then provide their own natural poop fertilizer to the soil.